Women, men, boys, girls, and people from gender minority groups each have a unique and important role to play in resolving conflicts over water. When we include their diverse voices in our work, we can form better solutions to water management and sustainable peace. My name is Sophie Mulcahy. I'm a consultant at International Alert. This lesson is focused on gender, water, peace, and security. Together, we will look at why gender and inclusion are so critical in addressing water-related security risks and what you can do to incorporate this into your own work. To do this, we first need to understand the different ways that people are connected to water and how these connections shape their experiences of conflict. So, why does gender matter in conflicts over water? There are three key pathways through which gender, water, and conflict are linked. People's roles in relation to water are often influenced by their gender. When we talk about gender, we mean the different behaviours and roles that are associated with being a woman, man, girl, boy, or person of gender minority group. These gender norms can vary from place to place and shape people's lives in very different ways. In many societies, women are seen as primary caregivers. In terms of water, we see that women play a key role in managing it in the home and in subsistence agriculture. This means that they are often responsible for collecting water and using it to care for their families. Around the world, men are mainly considered as breadwinners of the family and therefore responsible for generating income. If they work in farming, they will often rely on water for their livelihoods. However, these gender norms can increase inequalities and barriers, particularly for women. For example, the hours spent collecting water often mean that women and girls have little time for education and are less likely to enter into technical parts of water management, such as engineering. They can also create spaces which are male-dominated, forming barriers for women's inclusion. Where women's leadership is undervalued, they're often excluded from decision-making around water governance. In fact, ministries of water are the least common ministry to have a gender focal point, which can result in water services that fail to meet the specific needs of women and girls. Inequalities such as these are felt most by women from marginalized ethnic, economic, political, and social groups. Think of refugees and indigenous people, or very old or young women. These are known as intersectional dynamics. To illustrate, women and girls from poorer communities will often rely on open source water, which means they have higher exposure to waterborne diseases. These gender roles and intersectional dynamics shape the way that different people experience conflict over water. In times of conflict, we see three key issues. Firstly, that women and girls are subjected to more forms of sexual and gender-based violence. We know that conflicts can affect access to clean water. So if women and girls have to travel further to collect water or to insecure locations, they're more vulnerable to sexual harassment, rape, violence, and kidnapping. Gender-based violence in the home can also increase when water scarcity causes frustration and stress. This is particularly so in places where violence against women and girls is the norm. Women's burdens can also increase during the post-conflict period. If conflict damages water infrastructure, the cost of potable water increases during the post-conflict period. This can place huge stress and financial pressure on women in their domestic responsibilities. Women can also be exposed to health issues if there is no clean water. In Raqqa, for example, women returnees experienced serious gynecological issues after water infrastructure and resources were destroyed. Finally, men can be exposed to more vulnerabilities, which can result in negative coping strategies. When men's livelihoods are affected by water insecurity, they can face pressure to join armed groups in order to survive. When staple crops were destroyed during the 2006 drought in Afghanistan, Taliban recruitment increased because they supported the cultivation of opium. And if men are unable to find alternative employment, levels of domestic and community violence can also increase if they face challenges to their masculinity. But what can this all mean for peace? Though women and girls from rural communities are often disproportionately impacted by conflicts over water, they're not just victims. They can and do play major roles in resolving these conflicts, but their voices are often overlooked. We know that women have a unique knowledge of domestic and community water needs. This is because of the ways they use water on a daily basis. Yet all over the world, women's knowledge continues to be undervalued in decision-making and management. However, when women do influence water management, their communities get better outcomes. United Nations research of 44 local level water projects showed that meaningful engagement of women in decision-making leads to better functioning systems, increased access, and equitable distribution. Better water management can in turn reduce conflict, because conflict is not only dependent on water scarcity, but also the ability to govern fairly. Women are also a powerful advocacy force. They can be found at the forefront of promoting justice for their communities all over the world. During the Cochabamba water war in Bolivia, women played a key role in the defense of public ownership of water. This not only increased their self-confidence, but also their community's perspective of women's leadership. Finally, women can play a critical role in mediating water-related conflict at all levels. We see that beyond water management, gender norms can also prevent women's participation in conflict resolution. However, at the local level, women's deep understanding of the consequences of water scarcity in daily life can give us vital knowledge to develop conflict-sensitive approaches to water management. In the international space, including diverse voices in negotiations can make dialogues more open to different perspectives. Here, evidence actually shows that natural resource management is more likely to be prioritized in peace negotiations when women are included. So, what does gender-inclusive water, peace, and security look like? As we have seen, women are often overlooked when it comes to water and peace. But without their inclusion, we lose out on the solutions they can bring to water management and conflict resolution. However, there are actions that you can take now to make sure that women and girls are included in your work. You can make gender equity the foundation of all that you do. We hear many people talking about the need for gender equity, but what exactly does it mean? Firstly, we can consider what it is not. Gender equity is not just equal numbers of men, women, boys, and girls in activities. It doesn't mean they're identical or that they should be attended to in the same manner. It does mean that the rights, responsibilities, and opportunities of any given person should not depend on whether that person was born a man or a woman. This definition should form a basis for your work. You can undertake a comprehensive gender analysis. Gender analysis can shed light on different people's relationships to water. This can help you to better foresee how to meet their needs in a gender and conflict-sensitive way. Your analysis might include questions related to their role, access, and control of water, such as, do you experience challenges in your water responsibilities? Do you feel that people's gender or age influences which type of role they have? Do you participate in the management of water in your community? Has there been a conflict in the past over how water is managed? Finally, you can make consultation and dialogue processes gender sensitive. If women's voices are not heard in initial consultations, water facilities will be unsuited to their needs. Their inclusion is essential to developing systems that are used by everybody and which account for the safety of women and children. You can take care to ensure gender balanced representation, but it's important to remember that women may feel unable to speak out in public or may not have done so previously. In these cases, you can think about organising separate consultations that are divided by gender or age, led by trained facilitators that people feel comfortable with. You can find more concrete actions in the recommended reading section of this module, as well as case studies and further information on all the topics discussed. You may come up against challenges towards women's participation during your work, but together we must persist. The inclusion of women and girls is absolutely essential if we are to achieve sustainable peace. If we miss their voices, then we miss potential solutions.